Oh yeah, gang gang. Tuesday night. What is up, peoples? I am excited about this one tonight. It's an awesome topic. Who doesn't love talking about heavy deadlifts? Of course, we just had Hafthor Bjornsson hit the 505 kilo deadlift with a lot more to go. And if you don't know me, my name is Steve Coyne. I recently, for 5 whole minutes, held the American deadlift record at 725 pounds for the 80 kilo slash 176.4 weight class. So we're going to break down tonight the 10 steps. There are more, but these are good starting places for 10 steps for a world-class deadlift. All right? So let's just jump right into this thing, man. First thing, this is really kind of at the base of anything you're going to want to do in strength, in strongman, whether it's win a title or hit a really, really big PR. And it's having long-term vision with short-term goals. Okay. Now, that's a kind of broad concept, but it is important that this starts number one. It's the most important thing to have because you got to know where you're going to chart your path there. Now, with our long-term vision, Hafthor, this is a really good example. He's somebody who probably always has wanted to have the world deadlift record since he got into strongman. But there's always a lot of just different things that happen in life, right? Like, COVID 2020, he was supposed to set that record at World's Ultimate Strongman. That was going to be, I think, in Bahrain that year or maybe Dubai. He ended up setting it in his gym. It's a legit lift. We're not getting into that right now. But in order to reach a 500 kilo deadlift, you have to first be able to do 450. Before that, you have to be able to do 400. Before that, you have to be able to do 350 and 300. So when you break down this long-term vision into short-term goals, we're using measurable statistics and charts and waypoints, checkpoints along our path to make sure that we're going where we need to, okay? Now, with our long-term vision and short-term goals, why we want short-term goals is we can see very quickly whether or not we are actually obtaining progress to that thing, okay? So let's say right now you are somebody who's at like a 550 deadlift and you want to get to 600, okay? Your ultimate goal might be 700, but first, you need to get 600. So if you run a training cycle and you only go up maybe 5 pounds, that is not enough. So you need to just assess and reanalyze and wonder, okay, what do I need to do differently? And that's going to take us right into number 2, right? Every good elite deadlifter has an optimized stance. And I'm actually going to give a less than ideal example of Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw had a very, very wide stance. And the reason I want to bring him up is a lot of people, including, the MST founder, Shane German, has said that, he should probably have brought his feet in a little wider. Okay, but he is 6'10". He's got a very wide frame. So when he widens his feet out, his feet are just outside of his shoulder distance width. Now, what a lot of people do at lower levels of strongman is they take the Brian Shaw stance thinking, oh, he's deadlifted 1,000 pounds, so I'm going to do it like him. But you're not comparing his body structure to your body structure, all right? If you're somebody who is 5'8" like me, you need to use the guidelines that all lifters should use and apply them to your body type. Now, this typically is somewhere around what people would call your jump stance, right? If you do not really know where you're supposed to be with your deadlift, a very good way to kind of auto check is take a step off a box or a bench and land with your feet evenly, sink into the landing, and freeze frame. Look at where your feet are. That's where your body naturally is going to absorb the most power. It's going to put you in a naturally powerful position, and therefore that's going to be one of its most powerful positions to press off of, right? So when we're driving, pressing through the floor, we have to make sure we're in that aligned stance. You should not just go wide, right? If you're going wide, what else happens? Your hands get out wider. We want those arms ideally like directly under us, straight up and down, so they're hooks and we don't have to use as much upper back strength and musculature to hold out the weight. If you've ever done a snatch grip deadlift, you know that this is a weaker position than right here. So you have to make sure that your stance is optimized for you, the individual. But once you do that, then you need to work on building full chain strength. And this is really just looking at the sum of all parts. The reason why a lot of people call the deadlift the king of the lifts is because it is a full body head to toe movement, right? You know, we're using our feet, everything on the posterior chain, our calves, our hamstrings, our glutes, our low back spinal erectors, mid back, upper back, lats, traps, arms, and everything else to lift this up. Now, deadlift is kind of a cool one for me because you can see when you're coaching it where people's weaknesses are, you know, and you can look at it, you know, if you're somebody that is programming for yourself or you're a coach, you can analyze, right, the muscle groups that are failing through the positions, okay? So you can work positional weaknesses and then also the musculature weaknesses hand in hand in order to keep building up your deadlift. Let me give you some examples, right? So if you are having a hard time breaking the floor off your deadlift, one of the things, the muscle group that actually is doing a lot of work, the very first little bit off the floor, is your quads, okay? So it's just because that's the point where you have your knee flexion down low and your hips should stay in the same spot, as should your torso. You're just starting to slowly extend your legs a little bit before your hips come through, and so does your torso. So that's actually legs that are involved from the very beginning of the deadlift. So you can use a leg press or half field squats to strengthen up your quads in that. Now, if you are somebody who, you know, starts here and then your hips shoot up, what we are seeing there is that your hamstrings are not strong enough to hold that braced hinge position. So you need to then work on things like hamstring curls or RDLs, which are really targeting your hamstrings through a deadlift. If you're having problems rounding your back when you're going to deadlift, you know, a lot of people can hold their hips in the right position, but they really aggressively round here. That's all upper back. So we can get a lot of work done with rows, pull downs, snatch grip deadlifts to train all that upper back musculature. So we're working head to toe. Now, really it's just all about having no weaknesses. So when you're building out a program, right, you can't just like only deadlift, right? Like if you're a novice, it is acceptable to build full body strength just through compound movements, but to specialize and start getting up to like a world-class level, you do need to be intelligent about your accessories. So I'm going to actually jump ahead to number 5 here before we get into rarely maxing out. And we want to always use a series of long-term programs. You know, as a coach, I do sell one-off peak programs, deadlift programs, but really the thing that you have to do to be the best possible lifter is think very long-term, all right? You know, this is not just 8 weeks or 12 weeks, but you need to think about the different cycles that you're lining up one after the other, after the other, after the other. Okay, so for example, on my build up this year to my 725 deadlift, 4 times body weight, you know, we're looking at the past 2 years of work that led me to that moment. And now that's being balanced with the competitions that I had to train for, the specificity of certain events. But as we regress and backtrack, here's what we did. We had a peak deadlift that was in the mix of, you know, a full strongman contest prep, but we did a couple peak singles with back off sets. Then we did sets of 3, sets of 5, sets of 8, and sets of 10 that was going back then 12 weeks in like 3 to 4 week cycles of, again, singles, triples, 5s, 8s, okay? Now, before that, we were doing a lot of power cleans. So even though that's not a strength specific movement, you have to be strong to do it. But, you know, if you're going to power clean 225, but you can deadlift 500, that's the strength movement. But doing all those power cleans in Olympic lifting created more of an athletic base and fast twitch muscle fiber recruitment body type in my own profile, so that when it was time to get back over into strength training, just pure slow strength, like that's what you would categorize a deadlift as, my body was more inclined to pull those quickly, right? To recruit those fast twitch fibers to move more efficiently. But let's keep cycling back. So we had peak strength, power through that Olympic lifting block. Before that was OSG prep, where we did similar to this peak. We did sets of 3, sets of 5, and sets of 10 on the axle deadlifts to build a base. Now, we use a lot of accessories in that axle buildup. That was about a 12-week program going into that, which included snatch grip, deficit, beltless deadlifts. So when we were using that, we were working away on all of these chains, parts of the chain in here. So when we're talking snatch grip, right, that's going to work our upper back musculature. Deficit is going to more intensely work our low back and our quads. And then beltless, it's forcing us to work more core strength. So these are the things that we're just really hammering before we go for that like big specific peak strength, right? You have to just kind of constantly build each little part up to get better and better and better and better. But let's keep going even further back. We did a series of barbell, just straight off the floor deadlifts, raw without a suit, so that we could have a lot of power. And then as soon as we threw the suit on, everything shot way right up. So what I'm trying to tell you is that you need to think about how we're going to layer and build over like a year or 2 years, and not just 8 to 12 weeks. Now, some examples of like a 16-week program, the most classic is a linear periodization model, right? Where you would see 12 to 16 weeks that all layer and complement each other, such as a GPP, general physical preparedness block, into hypertrophy, which is just elongating your muscle fibers. If you have a longer base for your muscle fibers, your nervous system has more places to connect to all those motor units. And then when it has that, you can start using power and explosiveness, which then your body is ready and adapted to go all the way out for peak strength. So what you want to do with long-term programs, and this is like the benefit of being in the game so long, is that you're going to find things that your body works best for. There's all these body types: ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph, and slow responders and fast responders. You have a unique code and characteristic for your body type that is going to respond differently to certain sets of volume, intensity, and styles. So what I would recommend is to keep going through these programs, but find the ones that work for you. We know, for me, from my approach, every time we have done this slow buildup where we're doing sets of 10, then sets of 5, then triples into our peak singles, I have gained strength every single time. So why would you not keep doing that? Outside of the deadlift, I just made a whole bunch of posts about the Hepburn method. It's on my YouTube channel, it's on my Instagram. You go to Instagram, get the free program on it. Just go comment program on that post. But we also know that that works for my log press, because every time we have run that cycle, my log press goes up. But here's the thing, it takes patience, right? It's good to know that something's going to work, but if you want to make a 100-pound jump and let's say you're at 500 right now, and you want to make a 100-pound jump, that's a 20% increase, okay? You can reasonably expect somewhere between 5 to 8, and in a perfect case scenario, 10% jump on programs if they're 12 weeks or longer. So what does that mean? You probably need at minimum like 24 weeks in a perfect scenario to get that 20% increase. Okay, so just remember these things. It really takes the long-term vision with short-term goals. It's exactly why we started that way, because if you're in it for the long haul, you literally cannot lose. Now, even though we're doing these programs and building up, you really should rarely max out. Unless it's for a competition or for a really big goal that you're actually really close to, maxing out is a waste of time, okay? And I mean maxing out a single, okay? there's going to be different periods of time in your programs and your workouts where you can max out other things. And I really try to invite not just you, but I tell all of my clients when we have certain things coming up for competition, like we're going to peak, let's say Beast of the Bay coming up, max deadlift. We'll max out our deadlift there. But right now we're going to like max ourselves out on certain things like a sandbag to shoulder, max rep 60 seconds. We're going to, max out like our farmer's walk for a quick carry or something like that. So I want you to just kind of take your mind away from the urge to max out your 1 rep maxes in training and try to find other things where you can push it. A really good way to do that is conditioning, right? If you've got an air bike or a rower, like challenging yourself to do some really brutally hard 60-second rounds is going to have a ton of benefit, not just for your cardio conditioning, but your overall base for strength, right? If you have a good motor, you're going to be able to recover faster. So where can you max out in other things that's not a 1 rep max? Now, all of these are really important, but possibly the most important thing, the thing that will keep you aligned and automatically take care of all of this other stuff, is to have great coaches and a great support system. I've known a lot of talented athletes who are self-coached and cannot see past their own faults. I have a coach that periodically roasts me about different stuff, but like, that's my man. He's only done me good, and he holds me accountable to all the things that I need to do. So when we first signed up, when I first started working with my coach, I told him, hey man, I'm in this for the next 2 to 3 years, and we've been able to follow the path perfectly since then, okay? So again, long-term vision, short-term goals. But if you have a great coach, guess what? He's going to take care of the stance that you, the athlete, needs to be in. If you have a coach, he's going to take care of all these little things, the full chain strength that you need to be excellent. He's going to program you so you don't max out. Now, don't be that person that goes off program and maxes out anyways, because you're being a fucking idiot if you do that. Putting it nicely. But it also is not just your coaches. This is your support system. I also have a nutritionist. God is awesome. My wife supports me. She's always there for every step of the journey. I have the Strongman Club. I've got an awesome network of people, clubstrongman.com, where we support each other to get after it and get towards our goals. So you have to have those people around you to uplift you and keep you going in the right direction. But you need to be careful about the support group, because sometimes the people around you, you can get, the term like that is thrown out sometimes in other worlds is like, bigotry of low support, right? So like you're getting basically held back by people telling you that that's good enough. In a successful model, the way that you should think as a successful person that's going to keep doing even better is there's always a little bit of a yin yang between I'm really proud of my efforts, but I demand more for myself. So you need to be careful that you're not around these people that are telling you that what you did is like good enough, right? Or don't encourage you to like push further. And this is tricky because we all kind of have a hard time communicating this to others, but you're going to know when you get with those people that are focused on getting to the very top, that are going to hold you accountable, check you on your shit, and push you to be the best. Just make sure that you're not around people that think, mailing it in at the local show or winning locally is really the best move for you if you desire to be the best in the entire world, right? Don't let them shoot down your dreams. Don't let them shoot down your goals. Don't let them tell you you can't do it, even if they're nice, because that's not what you want. Now, with that, we're always balancing the mental side of things. So you have to exist in a positive state. Now, I really have been kind of studying Hathor a lot more over the past couple of days, and he had a great video. I really highly recommend that you go watch his video recap from Eisenhart this past weekend. And like, the guy was in a good mood the whole entire time, right? So positive state is Plain and simple, this is what allows you to be in a flow state, and it also allows you to be at your peak power potential. All right. This is this high vibrational energy, as woo-woo me people say. But this is also power versus force, right? This is a whole other topic that we could go on and on and on about, but just to cover it simply, your emotions and your state of mind is either a force that's being acted on you or a power that you yield with. Okay, so if you're angry, depressed, sad, right, envious, these are forces that are blinding you and literally dampening your whole experience. They're putting a limp on you and holding you back from being your very best because they distract you. They physically make your body tense, right? There's all sorts of physiological mechanisms that happen with negative emotions, but we want to instead focus on the positive side of this. Like if you're happy and excited and you're joyed and you're feeling gratitude, you literally have better physical systems under those things. So looking again, like Hathor, Hathor, when as soon as he was done, he was just like overjoyed, but he was in that state because that's how he existed before. He talked about how much he loved, his wife and his 2 kids. He talked about how much he loved his team that supported him. That guy rolls hard with his entire family because they are a unit that all care about each other. So those are ways that he is existing in this positive state all the time. But if you just show up somewhere and you're grumpy and butthead and vengeful, you're not going to get anywhere. So in order to physically perform your best, you have to mentally be strong. This is one thing Gabe Pena told us is champion of mind, champion of body. All the great world-class deadlifters understand that they are not going to get a big pull if they are not the champion of their mind first, okay? And what does that mean? That means training your mind just like you should train the body with repetitive, focused action and intention to be your best. The 2 best ways to do this are visualization and focus, right? This is not a presentation about visualization, but I guarantee you, Thor, thousands of times, has pictured himself pulling that heavy deadlift successfully. So when it's time to just show up to the platform, he's already done it in his head 1,000 times. So what's the difference of just doing it one more time? We're just repeating successful behaviors in our head. I talk about this all the time, but if you don't know, there's multiple studies that have proven if you visualize something in your head so strongly, your nervous system cannot distinguish or differentiate between that experience that's only in your head and a real lived experience. They are identical the way that your body reacts. So you're literally practicing the moment over and over and over again. If you go and watch, I think it's Born Strong, or there's a documentary on Netflix where they talk to Eddie Hall, they talk to Betty Magnuson. They all say the same stuff. They thought about this moment and really focused on it over and over and over and over again. And then when it was time to do it on the platform, they just showed up and signed their name to it. That's all there is to it, right? Now, when we combine that sort of mind training with experience, that's when the real magic starts to happen, okay? You can't just sit at home and think about these things and get good at them. You have to actually go and put yourself out there and expose yourself and test yourself to see if what you're doing is really working, okay? Because even if you visualize yourself doing something super successful, a meet scenario could be totally different than you imagined. But if you know this is what this competition is going to be like, because I've been here many, many, many times, I know how the flow is going to go. I know even if it doesn't go exactly how you think, you have seen how it could go and you are adaptable and prepared for different situations, then you can just be cool as a cucumber, visualize the successful lift, and be able to roll with the punches, whether this is a fast meet, a slow meet. I mean, the Eisenhart meet the other night, Thor did his deadlift at 1 a.m. Do you think he was expecting to do that? Probably not, but it didn't matter. And that's where we come to the last one, is self-belief. So this needs to be unwavering self-belief that you're going to get the job done, unattached to the time and the outcome. So not just the time of the day. Thor did this at 1 a.m, but I'm talking about like your timeline, right? You have to be ready for the opportunity when it presents itself. And this is what I mean by unattached to time and outcome. I've wanted to go for an American deadlift record my entire life. Guess what? The opportunity presented itself at America's Strongest Man, so I took it and went for it. And again, it was beaten within 5 minutes, but I don't care. I got it done. I'm still super proud about it. Okay? You have to believe no matter what, you're going to get it done. Because if you are training yourself mentally and physically and you're getting experience, you are going to connect to the crossroads of destiny and your moment will be there. It's just impossible. This is this reticular activating system that all humans have. When you have something at the forefront of your mind, a goal that you want to achieve, you're going to start seeing more and more and more, not just opportunities for it to happen, but what they call synchronicities that are going to line up in your path. That's another reason why the long-term vision, having that fixed thought, is so important. Because if you're somebody that is always believing I am going to deadlift 800 pounds and you positively supercharge that with visualization and self-belief, you're going to find things over and over and over and over again that are going to push you in the right direction. It's just that simple. So you have to be adaptable with that. Again, it all comes down to self-belief. If you believe no matter what, I'm going to get it done, unattached to the time, the when, and even the how, you just believe it's going to happen, it will happen. And now here's the other important thing. It might not happen the first time. This is why getting experience is so important, is because you learn from your mistakes over and over. Thor missed, what was it, 1100? He went for elephant bar deadlift at the Arnold this year. Didn't happen. Went for 501. Didn't happen. Okay. But you know what? Because that didn't happen at that event, that gives him a little more gusto and motivation and energy to put it into Eisenhart and do even better. And now he's just rising, he's got a huge tidal wave of momentum that's going into Giants Live now, where he's probably going to pull 510 or more. Okay. So you just got to stay on top of all this stuff, man. There's a lot of different things that we can talk about in this, but these are kind of the 10 things that I think all good deadlifters have. And I've met a lot of them. I've met a lot of 800-pound deadlifters. I've seen 1,000-pound deadlifts over and over. A couple guys have deadlifted 900. I've deadlifted 4 times my body weight. And I promise you, if I didn't utilize all of these things, then it wouldn't have happened, right? If I'm stepping up to the bar and I'm thinking, oh shit, 4 times my body weight, 725, I've never done that before, I don't think I can do it, then I'm not going to do it, okay? So why would you leave any sort of room for uncertainty? Again, it's about being in this positively charged state where you believe you're going to get it done no matter what, because that's what physically allows you to succeed. So those are my top 10 here. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, the floor is all yours, guys. If you have any questions, we'll give it here for about 2 minutes or so, and then I'm going to sign off. But I appreciate you guys joining me. Nice train of thought. Trapper Kane's in the building. I wish I could see who was here. I'd call you guys out. I'd ask you to participate or whatever. But hey, if you've not done so, hit that thumbs up button for me. If you haven't done so, hit subscribe. Sean Fenley is ranked in as the top fan right now. Appreciate you, my man. Man, it's so important to have a good coach. I have benefited from 2 of the best coaches in the absolute entire world. Josh Bryant was my first coach. Josh has coached everybody from World's Strongest Woman, Brittany Diamond, to Julius Maddox, to Jeremy Hornstra, T.D. Davis. He was coaching Death Grip Derek for a little while. He coached Shane Hunt for a while. He's coaching Sandra Bradley. She's one of the best stone lifters in all of history, male or female. She's killing it. Coaches Terry Walker. So that was who my very first coach was. So I benefited a lot from that, man. And then I got onto another absolute perfect fit for me, Max McCall. And now one of the reasons that I did find Max McCall, and I think this was, again, we talked about divine timing and synchronicities, is that my goal is to be the best and strongman. Like I'm not afraid to admit that. I want to be the very best. And I knew that I needed help with my overhead pressing. So as soon as I started to think about that, what did I do? I started looking at okay, who are some really savage overhead pressers in lightweight strongman? I'm going to see what they do. So I actually found Narimu Hahipin, who was a 90-kilo World Strongest Man champ in 2019. And then I found Nick Myers, who was also 90-kilo World Strongest Man. I said, oh, shit, the same guy coaches them. Oh, cool. That guy looks like he actually coached somebody to do an 80-kilo axle world record several years ago. All right, there it is. That's my guy. So I only kind of started seeing that because I was really super clear about what I needed to do. Had I just thought I need a coach, and have no specificity about that, I would not have found the fit that was for me. And I couldn't have found anybody better. So get yourself a good coach. If you give a shit, get one. All right. And if you can't afford it, I understand. No problem. Get the next best thing. Join clubstrongman.com for programs. We got nutrition, protocols, recovery guides, ebooks, all sorts of fun stuff, technique tutorials. We've got some new courses coming over next month. It's really a lot of fun. Clubstrongman.com. And I'm going to call it there. Oh, let's get it done. All right. I got some, I don't have deadlifts tomorrow, but I got some heavy lockouts I'm pretty excited for and some other fun stuff. So stay strong. Have a championship night. See you later.